So this bro's name is Youngsik, and he looks like this because all he does is play video games. Anyways, bro is so washed in real life that he's currently trying to sign up to an agency that will help him get a girl because Roblox ain't giving him the Wizard of Oz powers. Unfortunately for him, he gets denied at literally every agency as his life is basically bad luck Brian reincarnated. However, as he walks out of the agency made for simps totally angry and defeated, he gets surprised ganked by a woman with some rice cakes out of this world. It then turns out that the redhead is an astronaut in more ways than one, but she straight up asks our boy if he's needing some help in the girls' department since he looks like he needs it. Of course, Youngsik instantly gets flustered as he can't help himself but be a sussy Becca right in front of her as he starts staring at some brand new basketballs. Eventually, he's able to unfreeze himself and snaps back to reality after the girl mentions they do a 100% refund guarantee if he's not satisfied with the service. Although initially totally interested, our bro gets a flashback and realizes that this is probably a scam as no agency would take him, even the ones that didn't deny a 300-pound Discord mod. As such, Youngsik decides to hand her back the company flyer as he has no interest in getting bamboozled, so he walks away afterwards and calls it off. Regardless, the day passes by and our boy spends the entire rest of the afternoon and the evening playing some Warzone, but after a while he does his typical rage quit and decides to stare at his phone. We then learn that bro actually had a girlfriend beforehand. They were even closing in on the marriage stage, but he screwed up big time after channeling his inner supreme sussy Baka. It's then revealed that she straight up coasted him after Youngsik fake having a wrapper on his banana tree plantation while doing some rice cake destroying. So she broke up with him right after and never looked back. Nonetheless, bro ruined an 8-year relationship and now he can only stalk her social media as his ex got married literally weeks after to a rich older man as Youngsik was an ultimate brokey. Nonetheless, as Youngsik spends the night scrolling through his ex's Instagram, he randomly gets mom aggro out of nowhere, so he's forced to answer the call or else he's about to face the wrath of an Asian tiger. The two then start catching up a little bit, but then our bro is forced to tell the lie that he's still in a relationship with Minhee, so his mom orders him to get married as he's super close to reaching his boomer age. So now with Youngsik out of options, he decides to meet up with the mysterious redhead from the day before in the morning as he knows time is ticking before his family finds out. Eventually, he gives in even though it's totally out of his broke budget, so he ends up actually signing a contract where he's supposedly paying to get a chance with 5 different bombshells out of his league. Nevertheless, on the day of his first date, he didn't get bamboozled as a beautiful blonde actually showed up and she actually seemed interested in him, even after she learned of his brokey circumstances deep within his 30s. Then on his second date, he met with a model from Victoria's Secret, and let's just say she was putting too much trust in her upper armor to make sure it kept its golden treasure safe. However, this time after some small talk, the girl wasn't as eloquent or nice as the previous one as she straight up asks our boy how much he makes a year, so he begins to show why his anger management classes weren't working. Youngsik then refuses to disclose how much his salary is and instead, our boy angrily asks her how much she makes a year instead. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the cutie gets up and tells Youngsik that she now has a rough understanding of his situation, so she smirks and proceeds to tell him that money doesn't matter to her. She then picks up her $10,000 bag and asks Youngsik if he wants to leave with her as she reveals to him that the only thing that matters to her in this life is how well planted are his banana trees inside his greenhouse plantation. Unfortunately for our boy, he didn't get the hint, so he ended up telling her to leave, so now he's trying to drown his sorrows thinking that he screwed it up again for being a brokey. However, as he continues to get some belly fat from drinking too much calories, he notices that the exact same girl from earlier has coincidentally entered the same restaurant. But then the turntables turn as he realizes that behind her was literally every other girl he went on a date with, all looking like they all somehow know each other. After a few more seconds, his sussy brain almost explodes from his discovery as even the manager that hooked him up was also there. Anyways, the girls end up sitting down right behind him, but it turns out they're basically all blind as a bat as they can't even tell Youngsik is literally right beside them. So with the plot armor thickening making our boy invisible, he continues to stare and eavesdrop in total disbelief as the manager drops fat stacks of cash on the table to share with the rest. Shortly after, the purple-haired girl starts talking about Youngsik and begins to trash talk him in front of the other girls, but the manager looks a little bit worried about what she's hearing. Mere seconds after the purple-haired girl started making fun of him, our bro gets sent into the reality check dimension as the others started to open up about how much they really didn't like him, but instead they put up a show just like the Kardashians to keep it going. As the girls continued to bond by talking about their experiences with Youngsik, the manager tried to defend him to no avail, but she ends up getting saved from having to hear all about it as she gets a call from her manager. She then rushes off to the bathroom to take the call, and she even passes by our boy, but she was too distracted by her manager to notice that the hunchback dude was actually one of her clients. Regardless, we discover that the red-haired manager is actually named Jushin Sai, and she's basically trying her hardest to keep her job, as life's totally tough out there if you meet rules 1 and 2 of being attractive. After the call, Jushin is able to drop her fake act with her boss, so she shows how frustrated she is with him, but she forgets all about it as she needs to do a quick number 1. However, just as she was about to pop off the cap to do her number 1, she forgets to lock the door, so she leans over to close it. Just as she was about to successfully lock the door, her phone drops to the dirty ground as things take a massive sussy turn. With her phone cracking from the drop, we discover that she got instantly ganked by our boy, looking absolutely furious after overhearing everything. He then starts angrily yelling at her by asking if she's surprised, as he tells her that she's a scamming dog for doing him wrong like that by setting him up in a fake setting. Now caught in a very compromising position and still really having to do a number 1, she tells him to hold on and gently asks like a true professional to calm down first. However, things backfire for Jushin as our boy gets even more angry after hearing her ask him calm down, as he can't believe she had the gall to say that after tricking him all this time. It was at this very moment Jushin knew she screwed up, as we can visibly see her soul start to leave her body after it dawns on her that Young-sik probably overheard the entire conversation about him from top to bottom. As such, our boy starts to look like he's about to enter his demon time mode, as he looks like he's about to summon a portal that will transform him into the ultimate sussy demon lord. But right before he transforms into his new form, Jushin shows off her quick thinking skills and tells our boy she can still give him a full refund due to their 100% guarantee. However, things quickly go from bad to even worse as Jushin accidentally hits his banana tree plantation, causing Young-sik to finally realize that Jushin currently has no armor defending her papayas. Luckily for her though, even with his altered state in mind, Bro didn't transform into a demon lord, but instead, he notices his banana tree grew too much and tries to explain himself by blaming it on the constant rain. Now with the golden opportunity, while Young-sik is distracted after learning his brand new programming language Python is alive, she quickly picks up her cracked phone from the ground. Jushin then warns him to leave as Bro didn't check the sign right before he entered, but since he identifies as all genders, he's good to go, but regardless, she starts calling the po-po. Unfortunately for her, out of all the times Bro could be a Chad, he decides now is the time to stand up for himself and tells her sheep off and to call the po-po, as he doesn't care, as he's now a supreme Chad with no care in the world. As she rings up the emergency number, our boy begins to clap back as he shows off a number he's about to call, which just so happens to be an anti-fraud line for companies. And with just a single Sigma male move, her life flashes right before her as she starts thinking of the future, where she gets caught and fired for hiring part-timers to cosplay as very interested girls and beta males. So with bills to pay and a mortgage to pay off, Jushin breaks down in front of Young-sik and apologizes while telling him she can do whatever he wants to fix his issue. Now I've seen too many amazing books and anime in my lifetime to know where this is heading, so buckle up those seatbelts as it's sussy time, baby. He then attempts to play Simon Says by repeating, "Whatever I want" to Jushin, but she already looks flustered before turning into Sussy Street. Shortly after, he realizes he has too much defensive stats in his armor pants, so he changes it out with some invisible ones that gives him plus attack damage, so he orders Jushin to live up to his expectations. Now caught in a sticky pickle in front of a Pokeball, she starts sweating as the air condition isn't even on, and not totally because of the Pokeball assignment she just got tasked to complete. Our boy then starts to smirk while doing the evil villain look by covering his eyes with his hair, so we already know he transformed into his demon lord form. Meanwhile, as Jushin finds herself stuck in a situation due to the girls all talking about him earlier, the purple-haired girl gets super bored waiting for her, so she starts watching more King anime. After binge watching more of our recaps, she eventually finishes multiple episodes and starts to visibly get frustrated with the rest, as they don't want to start eating without her. Purple-haired girl then pipes up and starts talking about how Jushin needs to hurry up even if she's dropping bombs on the toilet like the United States Air Force, as she got some plans later on in the evening. Nonetheless, with time fleeting, and since we all know time is money like those old guys say, she gets up from her seat and decides to take the matter into her own hands by going to see if Jushin is alright. Now back inside the duel arena between Young-sik and Jushin, our boy promises to pretend that nothing ever happened between them and to forget about him catching her, only if she decides to go through catching his Pokeball using her expert training skills. As such, she actually closes her eyes and goes through with his proposition, as she really wants the promotion from her boss so she can afford a more luxurious lifestyle. Shortly after, our boy levels up like Doctor Strange in the love dimension, as he can't believe how nice it is for his banana tree plantation to finally get taken care of after all this time. Eventually, after getting into it like the zombie heat comeback against his Denver Nuggets, Youngsik's volcano explodes deep within the mountain range of Jushin. After finishing up their science experiment, our boy discovers that Jushin has never used the organ she uses to drink water with to do such an experiment before, but Youngsik thinks she's lying. However, just as Youngsik refuses to believe the notion that Jushin the Olympic Slurpee drinker is actually a first-timer, the two stop in their tracks as they hear someone try to open the door. Youngsik now finds himself in deep trouble, as Bro is stuck inside the girl's bathroom being a mega sussy baka. But if he gets caught now, then he will get locked out of the real world where he will be forced to defend his jar of pickles from other dudes wanting to eat it. Luckily for Youngsik though, he tapped into 14,605 alternative futures, where he realizes that there's only one way out as Jushin agreed to do anything he wants. Unfortunately for these two, the Victoria's Secret model ate some beans earlier today, so she's really gassy, thus she's super sassy, causing her to bang even louder as she's about to force her way through. However, Youngsik doesn't mind the pressure on him now as his friends call him the Iron Clutch God, so the menace grins and asks Jushin to hook him up with a model for round 2. Suddenly, the purple angel barges through the door as she can't hold it in anymore, but Jushin is able to interrupt her from entering last second. She then makes an excuse about how the boss called her up right now and that's why she couldn't hear anything. But the other girl is having none of it as she reveals she has other plans for tonight. As such, she pushes past Jushin, and I can't blame her as she looks like she's about to erupt harder than Mount Taco Bell. She even goes as far as swatting Jushin's phone away like some kind of mosquito, alerting her that she needs to evacuate right now as nothing can stop her from finding a toilet. However, just as all hope was about to be lost for Youngsik hiding in the corner, Miss Rice and Beans stops in her tracks as she hears Jushin talk about money. And now that she has the undivided attention of the Victoria's Secret model, just like guys whenever they see a try-on haul on YouTube, Jushin makes up an offer about a new client who's apparently going to pay really well. The girl then grins as her stomach quickly settles down due to her inner gold digger activating to max level, causing her to ask who their next target is going to be. As such, the two walk away while the girl is busy asking about the net worth of the new person. Meanwhile, Youngsik lurks from the shadows harder than my only duelist Reina. So fast forward the next day back at the simping agency headquarters, where we find our menace gets to live another day without him having to worry about dropping his jar of soap, pickles. Here, Jushin is busy regretting her decision of agreeing to the deal even though she could have totally just run out and started yelling, "But you do, girl, I guess." Anyway, she keeps having flashbacks of the betrayed loser, where she inadvertently says his name out loud and calls him a scoundrel, while slapping her forehead harder than you guys with one hand on the video right now. But speak of the devil, Youngsik appears out of nowhere in front of her already seated, so he calls her out. Regardless, she quickly changes the subject as Bro still hasn't gone to his most recent anger management class, and she's seen enough My Hero to realize that Youngsik got that Katsuki Bakugo aura. So she tries to bribe her way out of this situation to no avail, as Youngsik is dead set on getting revenge on all those who mocked him for being a brokey. After again confirming with Youngsik that he wants another date with Miss Beans and Toast, chaos erupts within her as she realized Bro didn't even have a plan, and now it's all up to her to figure it out. Regardless, she snaps back to reality and tells Youngsik that Bro got nothing going for him in life, and even an ex-Kisi shout-out won't help him out, so there's no way she would agree on a second date. As such, Youngsik gets up, and before he could even say a word, Jushin quickly backtracks, worried that he might reveal their scam, so she pivots and mentions she has a plan. So she ends up cautiously revealing her plan, where Youngsik must undergo a transformation so he can fool any lady from the agency by secretly taking someone else's identity. Elsewhere at an affluent neighborhood at the top floor of a building inside someone's penthouse, some sussy splashing sounds can be heard from a couple rooms away. Upon further revelation, we find out that it's the purple-haired girl again, but this time someone else is using their railgun to make sure her potatoes are turned into smashed ones. She looks a bit disinterested this time, so the guy starts complaining, but she's a bit too busy waiting for a text from Jushin to learn more about the new guy. Eventually, Jushin sends her a message notifying her that the brand new person on the block is one Billy richer than Drake, and Bro even has his own hospital while only being a 35-year-old boomer. Upon finding out that the new guy is some mega hot shot, the girl quickly accepts the offer without hesitation, and even her own water fountain starts leaking as she can't believe her luck. Now that she's secured the next job, Purple Girl drops her phone as she's irritated by the fact that Mr. Rice Cake Smasher still has not blew past his limits. But this girl is something else, so she decides to take the matters in her own hands by making sure Bro will be able to empty his water protein bucket as she gotta sleep to make sure she gets no beauty marks in the morning. She then whips out her Texan personality to become a cowgirl busy riding a fiery bull, But she starts staring at the closed eye boy, busy thinking to herself that he better enjoy it as this is probably the last time. Nonetheless, we fast forward to the next day where Jushin is set to meet up with Youngsik's new persona. This time, Youngsik actually doesn't look like a homeless Discord mod, and he even comes equipped with a brand new flashy suit and tie. So now our boy is actually looking not too shabby, and if he was in a dark alley looking like this, then I am sure no one would try to run the other direction, unlike last time. Anyways, today we learn that the purpled hair girl is named Hayoung, and Jushin has already set him up for a date in the next hour, causing Youngsik to be a little bit surprised as he didn't get a heads up. However, to ease his nerves, Jushin tells him that this time he isn't loser Youngsik, but he's a Chad with $1 billion in his bank, so he doesn't even need Riz, plus he's even equipped with a brand new doctorate, so he doesn't even have to try. And apparently, to top it all off to make sure his background is believable, Jushin whips out a pair of glasses and puts it on Youngsik. Now with his secret identity and plan in motion, we find our menace perched inside a very luxurious restaurant waiting patiently inside, hoping to seal the deal. Eventually, Hayoung appears, and this time she's also looking a little bit more respectful than usual compared to her. Been around the world and got passed around too many times look. Upon sitting down, Hayoung pulls out the classic pull your hair behind your ears move while instantly complimenting Youngsik, and she does so with such efficiency that other gold miners are put to shame with her flawless skills. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, we find Youngsik absolutely baffled that Hayoung somehow doesn't recognize him even though bro just put on some glasses, a suit, and got a haircut, so you might as well mistake him for Superman at this point. Nevertheless, Hayoung cuts to the chase, and the first thing she asks about after complimenting him is if he's actually a doc. Of course, Youngsik confirms that he's Dr. Disrespect, Mr. Champion two-timer, but before he could finish his introduction, Hayoung randomly asks if they've met before as he looks familiar. Our boy then face palms as he can't control the cringe dwelling within him as he knew there's no way no one could tell, and he can never be like his boy bald Johnny from the hub. But just as Youngsik thought it was all over, Hayoung pipes up and mentions the fact that she thinks she's seen him before at his hospital, and there's no way she could ever forget such a handsome man like him. So now, with the turntables turning, Youngsik finds himself at the brunt end of pickup lines just because this girl thinks this bro can call up a Brinks truck anytime he wants. Anyways, he's here to clap back and get revenge, so he ends up pivoting the conversation and asks Hayoung his occupation, causing her to be super defensive and on alert. Eventually, she relents, so Hayoung shyly reveals the fact that she's just a yoga instructor, and let's just say my sussy senses are now tingling. Youngsik then takes this opportunity to showcase his Wizard of Oz powers as bro starts talking about how he's so interested in her field and asks if she can privately show him. We then have a flash back to his meeting with Jushin, where she reveals to him that he's got her in the bag no matter what, since Hayoung's only dream is to raise her status by marrying someone well off. Now back in the present, the two end up relocating to another high-end restaurant as the evening is fast approaching, and the two need some action to get started. Initially, Youngsik was hesitant to moving as bro is still a brokey, and there's no way he could afford another restaurant, but luckily for him, Hayoung is now the one simping for him. As such, she tells Youngsik that it'll be her treat today, causing the chef beside her to be totally bewildered, as all the other men she's taken here is always paid. She even does the gender role swap perfectly, as Hayoung kept sending him drinks upon drinks, hoping that bro will begin flapping like a fish hook, line, and sinker. Eventually, Hayoung gets super frustrated as Youngsik won't bite on any of her baits, so she ends up thinking bro is way too clueless, and she needs to be even more obvious. As such, she decides to take his hand, where she then accidentally drops it on the valley under her. He then decides that it's time to be ultra sussy baka in public, as bro started to dive deep within her secret mine. Hayoung then gets flabbergasted, since Youngsik doesn't stop the entrance of her secret mine. Instead, bro bulldozed his way in and began an explosive entry like my rays. Our boy then pushes his glasses back up like he's the main character, but in reality he's the main villain, whilst he's busy sending his right arm into overdrive like my boy Cyborg. Luckily for these two, the chef master just acts like nothing is happening, as bro is secretly rooting for him as he's a tier 3 sub for Pokimane. He's even kind enough to show everyone what the heck is happening, as bro effortlessly flicks the sushi and turns it into a beautiful roll ready to be devoured in one go. Eventually, Hayoung couldn't handle the attacks from the Fire Nation, so she accidentally lets some sounds slip, causing the chef to get weirded out as he doesn't want to get reprimanded by his boss. However, she's quick to act and apologizes by saying out loud that she accidentally put too much wasabi on her sushi, but our bro is still going at 110%. In the end, Hayoung finds out what's it like to reach the summit of a mountain while eating out in public at a fancy restaurant, so she rushes off to the nearest bathroom. While inside, she decides to be a snitch, so she calls up Jushin and complains by asking why this dude pretended to be a new but he's actually a playa. Jushin then hangs up on her after telling Hayoung that if he doesn't want him, and she can just pass him along to the others. But Hayoung can't decide on what to do as she really wants to get rich like my boy Roddy Rich. Eventually, she makes up her mind as money is the cure for happiness and returns back to the restaurant only to find Youngsik missing. Now worried that she scared him off more than me using my real-life Halloween-made costume, she asks the chef what happened only for him to pass along a note with a room number on it. Of course, Hayoung is now fully determined to win Youngsik's heart over, so she ends up actually heading to the Grand Royal Hotel Room 1501. She then opens the room only to find it unlocked, so upon swinging it over, Mr. Menace appears looking like he's ready to whip out his large vanilla frosty as it's time for Hayoung to visit his Wendy's. The two then embrace while looking over the skyline of Seoul, but I thought bro was a brokey, and somehow he got a last-second room at the most fancy hotel, so it looks like he will be showing down on noodles all week. But right now, his banana tree plantation is telling him that it's totally worth it, so Youngsik readies his banana milkshake, ready to send Hayoung to the milk with extra cream dimension. And so the rest was history, as Youngsik's the Menace is able to drag his prey to the finish line, but at least Hayoung is thoroughly enjoying the entire race. From being dumped by your 8-year flame and mocked for being a brokey, to now Youngsik thrusting his rockets past the point of no return while Hayoung is busy hoping for his volcano to endure all challenges. Anyways, as Hayoung finds herself at the brunt end of a cosplaying jackhammer, her phone begins to ring from a caller ID named Honey. And since Youngsik is a veteran at watching very cultured anime and crazy reclapping, he imitates some of his favorite scenes by picking up the phone and instantly answering it for her. Hayoung then answers the phone like the cutest girlfriend, but just like we all expected, a battering ram coming from the world of Youngsik began to infiltrate the gates of Hayoung. Our bro then begins to even look more like a super menace as he becomes a straight-faced monster whilst busy sharing some vanilla whey protein. With the guy still on the phone, the poor lad starts to hear the splashing point causing him to freak out and ask what's going on, only for Hayoung to leave bro on speaker. Youngsik then snaps back to reality for a few seconds, where he gets angry as he remembers his ex that left him for an older man, thinking to himself that Hayoung is no different than Minhee the betrayer. And as he's busy thinking about Minhee, the anger within him begins to overflow, so he decides to transform into Shinra to control the flames, and to do so, he moves faster and stronger like Kanye. Unfortunately, Youngsik has now evolved into the man he hated the most, where he gets Hayoung to break up with her boyfriend by ordering her to tell her man that she's found a better one, so now the cycle has repeated. So after conquering Hayoung, we fast forward to the next day back at the agency where Youngsik ganks Jushin from the jungle. Now ignorant about the consequences if he gets caught being seen here, he tells her that he's changed his mind. Instead of getting revenge just once, he wants Jushin to help him against everyone else who made fun of him at the agency.